Welcome back to Chicago Sports Tonight, where we continue to discuss the Bears' potential move to Hammond, Indiana. Again, the Indiana Ways and Means Committee unanimously approved a stadium framework plan, with the Bears committing $2 billion towards construction. That is the same amount they committed to Arlington Heights. So to discuss this further, let's bring in 104.3 The Score's Matt Spiegel, who's actually down in Arizona at spring training. We were planning on talking to you about Cubs Sox on Friday. You're calling the Cubs Rangers on Saturday. And then we all wake up and there's some new stadium news. So you wake up in Arizona, and what's your reaction to all this, Speaks?
My first thought, honestly, is we have been setting this up for weeks. It's like the highlight of my year to come to Cubs camp and be embedded for a few days and talk to people on and off the air and learn everything. We got all kinds of guests set up. And are we doing 4 hours of the Bears have dropped the Indiana bomb? That was my thought process this morning. And I'm calling the boss and I'm like, all right, so we're just not doing any Cubs? What are we doing? Because honestly, that's the feeling around media. And I think it's probably relatable for viewers to think about it that way. There was about 10 to 12 hours where we thought this was happening today. The Bears were going to Indiana. And frankly, it was jarring because, like a lot of us, I haven't thought that it's a possibility. And then you realize that, like, the state legislature of Illinois canceled their hearing. And there were all these whispers, and it felt like, oh my God, is this actually happening? And you're kind of coming to grips. And then the Bears put out their statement, which I know we will discuss, and it's been a slow and kind of inexorable walk back to where we've been.
Yeah, there's so much to dive into when you talk about this. And quite frankly, it's not the first time the Bears have put out a statement saying that they are shifting their focus to Indiana. But it does seem like it is the closest they have gotten to committing to Indiana. And that's because of all the meetings, the timeline of legislative sessions with Indiana closing next week and Illinois being in theirs. And then we hear about a 3-hour meeting yesterday that was happening between the Bears and Governor Pritzker and his team, and Kevin Warren wasn't in it. Like, why does it feel so much more realistic this time to you?
Well,
or doesn't it?
Frankly, I don't know if it does feel more realistic to me. I may be in some of the minority there, but I've thought for a long time now that they're going to end up in Arlington Heights, and I still feel that way. I was offended and angry when they put out the statement late in the season, the most joyful season that most Bears fans have had in a long, long time. They put out the statement that threatened this and told us it wasn't about leverage, and we all knew that it was. And I'm back to that kind of feeling. I don't think they're leaving. I think this is a game. I think it is a manipulative way to try and negotiate and get more from the state. And I think that the governor and state legislatures are annoyed and angry at this. And in fact, I know they are, because for the past 6 weeks, there have been direct and honest, forthright conversation about getting a deal done that makes sense for everybody, which is the Bears to stay in Illinois on the piece of property that they paid almost $200 million for and own. They own it. So that's been where I think this is going to go. And I'm sitting here today, I still think that's where they're going to go. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but frankly, I won't believe it until it's announced that they actually are going to do it. This just feels like more of a leverage play, and it's kind of embarrassing. To be honest, it's like maybe this is the way that the game still has to be played. But, you know, there's something to be said for honest and direct communication. And that's what's been going on. And today, this is a bomb of sorts into the negotiations.
All right, you just used the word embarrassing. Is it embarrassing towards Kevin Warren and the Bears, or is it embarrassing towards the legislators in Illinois who, for 3 years, they've tried to keep the Bears in Chicago, so they blocked it initially from going to Arlington Heights, and now they're coming and saying, all right, now let's work on something?
I think it's embarrassing to the Bears. It reminds us of what the Bears have been for decades and decades and decades. They botched the Soldier Field renovation. They didn't put enough seats to even host a Super Bowl. They made it look like a spaceship got dropped into Soldier Field. Getting in and out of Soldier Field is still an absolute disaster. They lost their landmark status when they did that in the 90s, and the taxpayers still owe hundreds of millions of dollars on it. They have been a very poorly run, dysfunctional family business for a long time. This football season was not that. We all started to feel the sense of pride of having a first-class football organization with a coach that really changed everything. This is a reminder of how embarrassingly they do things. They've wasted 3 years. They bought that property 3 years ago, and they've wasted these years of potential progress and furthered things along. They told us they were going to get shovels in the ground. They don't have shovels anywhere near the ground. They told us all kinds of stuff. Kevin Warren fell in love with the city and had a dog and pony show on Soldier Field with drawings of what could be there. That was never going to happen because of Friends of the Park. So they've botched it every step of the way. Even if they're just successfully using leverage now, it's ugly, and it feels reminiscent of all the ugliness we've seen from the organization.
Yeah, we were building our open to this show, and we were going back, and I was like, let's pull every single Kevin Warren soundbite that we have when he referred to the stadium. And it started back at his introductory press conference where he was asked point blank if that is the sole focus. And he said, that is the sole focus is Arlington right now. And then it shifted years, every 6 months almost, it seemed like. All right, it went from Arlington to Arlington and the city, to just the city, to back to Arlington, to let's maybe now welcome in Indiana, which he has never said on camera, which we found interesting too, that all these Indiana references have all been in statements that he's released throughout different points of the year. And I think now, I just referenced back to when Kevin Warren was hired, and he was hired because of his experience that he had in Minneapolis with building US Bank Stadium and bringing that to life. And now I feel like he's been here for 3 years, and he has created this legacy of no stadium.
He really has. And I think there was a lack of understanding of how Illinois politics work. Making friends with the mayor is not a ticket to making friends with the governor. We've known that forever in this city. Chicago is a different fiefdom than the state of Illinois. And it felt like Kevin didn't realize that. And now this leverage play from Indiana. Does Indiana really believe this is going to happen? Why are they doing this? Why is the governor of Indiana behind this? Why is Northwest Indiana creating their own facilities authority to kind of work on this, to further their reputation and their possibilities as a Chicago suburb of sorts? Is the governor doing this because of some kind of partisan political action against J.B. Pritzker in a partisan political universe? I mean, these are questions that have to be asked and have to be thought about. And meanwhile, Kevin Warren has floundered. He's floundered and gotten closer. I felt really good about the way this thing was going over the last 6 weeks. And then this is a bomb that was dropped in and has really annoyed Illinois legislature and the governor. And now the question is, does the governor call the bluff? How tough does J.B. Pritzker want to talk? Is he okay with being the guy that lets the Bears go and says, you know what, screw this? So now, forgive the language, but now we're back to human stubbornness, Cassie. Human stubbornness getting in the way of sensible conversation to keep the Bears in Illinois.
I just had a conversation with your colleague David Haw yesterday about how politics is so similar to sports in all these different ways because it's drama on the field, it's drama behind the scenes, and we are literally seeing this play out and intersect in real life. How do you think George Halas would think about this? Because he once said that he wanted the Bears and saw the Bears in Arlington, and this is a charter franchise that is built on legacy.
Yeah, no, it feels like a manifest destiny of sorts to have the Bears end up in Arlington Heights because 1971 is when George Halas brought it up for the first time. I don't believe in my heart of hearts that George McCaskey wants to be known as the guy that let the Bears leave Illinois.
Me either.
I don't think he does. So, he's a guy who would have to live with that and own that and wear that in the face of his grandfather's legacy. And that's part of why I don't believe it's going to happen. So I think George would understand if this is all part of the negotiation, and perhaps it is, and we'll look back on this as just another noisy and ugly moment in the negotiation. I hope and kind of believe that's what this is.
I was reading the statement that the Bears released, and they had something in there about that they need to do their due diligence about the site itself at Wolf Lake. And that to me was like the dead giveaway of this is why I think it's a leverage play, because they don't even know if it's feasible to build a stadium, a domed stadium with mixed-use development. I'm assuming like they wanted to build in Arlington Heights on this plot of land, and they've had to do this at different sites when they tried to keep it on the lakefront, and they all found that it wasn't feasible. Right. So that to me was like, I don't think they don't know. They don't know that they can build it there, do they?
No, that's why this feels unserious, doesn't it? It feels unserious in that way. It feels sort of desperate and a little empty because there might be problems with the land. There might be problems with the water. there. There could be all sorts of issues that they don't know about yet. And they're hoping that the fear will kick Illinois where it counts. The good thing, I believe, is that they're not looking for several hundred more million to go towards overall the stadium money. I think this has now become somewhat about the Illinois legislature's desire for the Bears to have an affordable ticket price, or at least portions of affordability. It might be also about the tax breaks and the tax certainty. I'm hoping that that's the case, that we're dealing with other things that are on the table than this idea of whether we own or rent, and you're building us a stadium with the lease to own system or not.
Yeah, we know in Illinois, the Bears are searching for tax certainty. I think something else that people keep wondering about this whole stadium thing is that the Bears are valued at $8.9 billion, but the McCaskies don't have that in liquid assets. That's their asset. It's not liquid. So they don't just have nearly $9 billion to go out and spend and build a stadium or whatever. The pride and joy of Illinois is what the Bears are referred to. How does this play out if they move to Indiana? Are they the pride and joy of Indiana?
What's funny is that Go Cubs Go, as I speak to you from Cubs camp, says hear them all on WGN. And they haven't been on WGN for a long time. They're on 104.3 The Score, as you may or may not know. So, things change, lyrics change, songs still get sung. But it just feels wrong, doesn't it? It feels wrong. And I think it feels wrong for the state. It feels wrong for the city. Frankly, it'll feel somewhat wrong that they're not going to stay on the lakefront. But we know enough about Friends of the Park and all the problems there. I don't believe that George McCaskey wants to leave his family business feeling as wrong as this would feel. Maybe that's naive, but that's what I believe until I see otherwise in terms of proof.
I'm in the same page as you. I think the question I keep getting asked, which is from like the sports side of things, is logistically, like when the Bears go down to Soldier Field, they stay at the team hotel the night before. All the players drive down their own cars. They drive their own cars to the stadium. And part of this is, all right, are they going to drive an extra hour from Hallis Hall all the way up in Lake Forest to Hammond, Indiana, which is 19 miles from Soldier Field, which is another hour, and it's going to take them 3 hours to get there in a very time-valued business?
It's a good question. Also, does it make them less appetizing to free agents if free agents know that those kind of logistical issues exist? Do they end up having to rebuild a Hallis Hall or build a Hallis Hall satellite facility down by the stadium? I mean, it's not that many games. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. This is the weird thing about football stadiums. It's not like a baseball stadium where you've got 81 events that can be thought about both experientially and financially. You're talking about 9, maybe 10. If you include all the preseason stuff. So, maybe they'd have to find that way. To me, it doesn't feel plausible. It doesn't feel plausible overall, but I've seen money talk loudly.
I think I have the same reaction, I guess, if it were to move to Indiana, say that's the case. I would have the same reaction, I guess, to when we saw the news earlier this week that they were raising the average season ticket package price 13.5%, that Bears fans will show up. But do you not agree do you think that season, fans are just going to be like, I don't want to go to Hammond, Indiana. It's not really appealing to me. Or are they going to show up? They're going to sell at the stadium.
Well, I don't know that some of the North Shore fans are going to find a way to get there, but maybe they will. And that, I'm sure, is a sizable portion of a clientele that can afford to go and does go. But they'll pull from other places. I'm sure they'll pull from all over Indiana, and people will find a way for their 1 to 2 moments of going there and getting it. And maybe a lot of season ticket holders will keep their tickets and not go as much. They'll sell them off. And if the Bears get bad, you'll see an empty stadium in Indiana, where you very rarely see in Chicago, because at least you're still in Chicago and you're on the lakefront. So yeah, it could turn ugly in a number of ways.
All right, our producer Joe today added this little note that he wants us to talk about, or just mention. The Bears are not the first NFL team to call Hammond home. It was a charter member of the National Football League and home to the Hammond Pros, which George Hallis played for briefly until they folded in 1926. Did you know that?
I did not. This is why the Lord invented Joe today.
Exactly.
to give us nuggets like that. I did not know that.
Any reaction from Cubs players? Like, I get the sense players, they don't care where they play. Like, Cole Kmet gets asked all the time. Cole Kmet's not going to be here when this stadium is finished. This Bears roster will not be here. Will Caleb Williams be here? I don't know. But do players care about where they play?
I asked one player, I said, hey, did you see the news that they might be playing a game, but they're saying they're still thinking about Indiana? And the player said, aren't they bad at games? I said, yeah, they are in terms of those things. He didn't mean on the field either. I asked Cade Horton flat out, did he think they were going to go? And he said, I don't think they should. Cade Horton and his wife were at the Bears-Rams playoff game at Cubs Convention weekend. And he talked for a while about Caleb Williams, his former teammate at the University of Oklahoma, So, look, the Bears conversation has imbued all of my interactions here at Cubs camp in Mesa. One of the Cubs executives just bended my ear for 10 or 15 minutes on stadium shenanigans all across pro sports, So everybody's thinking about it. Everybody's talking about it. And we'll see. And there'll be plenty of time to focus on the Cubs. But damn you, Bears, for taking away some Cubs focus today.
I'm sure Tom Ricketts is sitting down there in Arizona being like, thank goodness I built up Wrigleyville and we are not going anywhere watching this all unfold.
He found a way through necessity of getting his own money to invest. And he has built up the area so he gets more money that way. And yes, he got some tax breaks on the back end, but isn't that the way it's supposed to work? Say what you want about the Rickettses in terms of how you think they've built a roster or whatever, but Wrigley is a jewel. Wrigley's the best facility of all the pro sports venues by far, and it's not even close. And a lot of that was done with their own money and the government help to a minimum. It's the model, and the Bears don't seem to want to play by that model.
All right, I am going to ask you a baseball question because you are on the call Saturday for Cubs Rangers. We'll keep it very broad. What do you expect? I know they open the Cactus League play tomorrow against the Sox. What should Saturday bring?
I hope we see the A-team infield. I had a chance to watch Bregman, Dansby, Nico, and Michael Busch all do infield practice today, and it was a joy, man. Michael Busch is really good, and the other three are all Gold Glove winners at one point. It's so, that's got to make pitchers feel so good. The Cubs threw more strikes than anyone in baseball last year, and imagine being Matthew Boyd or being one of these guys and just being like, why should I walk anybody? Why should I do that? I'll just let him hit it, which is frankly a really good way to go about it. So I think you'll see elite defense, and if they hit enough, this is going to be a very formidable team.
All right, Matt Spiegel, we appreciate your time. Thanks for taking the time out of spring training to talk a little Bears Stadium drama, saga, whatever you want to call it.
Unbelievable. Bears talking in the Arizona sun. What is the world coming to?
Have a great weekend and a great call on Saturday.